Jimmy and JoAnne, it's great news. At this point, most people are aware that the live streaming capability of Crowdsource the Truth is back in action, and that means tonight's episode of Unseen Libya with Jimmy and JoAnne Moriarty is going to play normally, and people are enjoying this YouTube preview on the Crowdsource the Truth YouTube channel. How are you guys doing?
Great, Jason.
We're doing good,
Thank
Jason.
you so much.
Thank you.
It's very good to see you as always. What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, we've got a really full show. You know, there's a lot of links and a lot of videos and stuff, but we're going to try to show the link between the New World Order, how everything is coordinated far in advance, how Libya, of course, was a takeover, what they did to Gaddafi. We've got a pretty good history on Gaddafi's activities, how he was really being a very, very productive leader of the country, and the steps he took to bring Libya out of a third world status and into really first world. And then we're going to show one of the worst, the very worst mercenary terrorists out of the United States, and how he's deified in the media and everything, what a piece of garbage he is. And then we're gonna get into the banking systems, how the huge amount of phony debt that the United States and all the countries of the world owe to the Rothschild, Rockefeller, Medici, Bush, Khazarian mafia bankers. And I've been telling everybody forever, the debt owed is more than $1 quintillion, which is about 700 trillion US.
Wow.
And everybody has guffawed and said, nah. Well, it turns out that Deutsche Bank took bankruptcy officially on the 4th of November, and they have $260 trillion of worthless derivative debt on their books. So this makes the number that I've been talking about of 1 quintillion more a reality. People are going to start putting the pencil together, and we're going to discuss how those derivatives are manufactured, how it's absolutely phony, it's a ripoff. And then we're going to get into how the pushback is happening, and how a bunch of African countries have banded together finally to throw out the Rothschild control of those 14 countries' monetary systems. And it's going to be a real interesting show. There's a lot of information, and we've given you enough links, and everybody, when they go to the Patreon show, they'll have a lot of links and they can spend the time necessary. But we're going to start off with Dennis Kucinich. He's going to out the Arab Spring as having been planned a long time in advance. How the takeover of Libya was planned years in advance, and the war games were actually played long time before the Arab Spring ever started. So, should be an interesting show. Should be a lot of information, and we've got real good news coming out of Libya, and the pushback against the deep state New World Order is happening all over the world. So. Right. Good news.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the New World Order, how they perform, what they do, how they take over countries, how they do economic warfare against countries, how they send in mercenaries as a proxy army, calling them rebels or revolutionaries. They have a schematic, or a scheme, if you will, that they do and they've been doing it to the world for quite some time now. And I think not only are we going to talk about it, we're going to show people who work for them, who work with them, people we knew, we met, and we're going to show how it's destabilizing the world. But the world is resilient. I think the bankers are overprinting so much money and have done so much illegal activity that they're going to fail. And when they fail, then that's when the world will step up and the people will become sovereign again. They're attempting to destroy the sovereignty of all countries right now.
Wow. And, I think a lot of people know this. I've gotten some messages from people who I completely disagree with, who have accused you two of anti-Semitism. And I know for a fact that that is totally incorrect, untrue, and the exact opposite. Jimmy and JoAnne are very open-minded people, two of the kindest individuals I've ever met, and I'm Jewish, and they're friends with me. So that argument makes no sense. When you speak about the Khazarian mafia, the Rothschilds, these banking families, well, why don't you guys explain?
Well, everybody has to learn to differentiate between the Zionists and the Jews. The Zionists are fake Jews. They're phony Jews.
They co-opted the Jewish religion.
They're the money traders that Jesus threw out of the temple more than 2,000 years ago. They are not Jewish. They have not one drop of the blood of Abraham running through their veins, and they are evil. The Jews, on the other hand, are a very noble people. They have a great history. They have wonderful traditions. They are not these evil Khazarian mafia. And the sad part is that the Khazarian mafia, these Zionists, have usurped the Jewish religion. They've taken over a lot of control, and most of the Jews don't really differentiate. But you really have to learn to differentiate. You have to really be critical. Yeah, wow. And in Israel, there's a big pushback. There's a huge conversion to Christianity in Israel because they're so sick and tired of the terrible, terrible activities of the control group in Israel. So please, everybody, go research the Zionists. Read who they are, when they started, how they coined that term, who they are, and then look at the Jews and look at the honorable people and look at the Satanists. They're not the same.
Yeah.
Now, here's something interesting, because I just put in Khazars and it brought up the Internet Encyclopedia of Ukraine. I think this is a topic we should dig into more because it's definitely not simple. And I know that even with this differentiation between Zionism and Judaism, there are still some Jewish people who take offense at that, because I know some modern Jews who consider themselves Zionists, but I have a feeling that their understanding of that word and the definition that you're speaking about differ. The people that have been on my show that proclaim to be proud Zionists, I know to be very kind people who are not involved in banking and killing people and trying to take over the world. Their claim of being proud of Zionism is that they support modern Israel over there in the Middle East. And again, this is one of these things where whoever it is that wants to foment hatred and create this kind of us versus them and bickering back and forth, divide and conquer and all that kind of thing. They want to introduce these really contradictory messages so that we're just all fighting amongst ourselves while they're off busily doing whatever kind of crap they're doing, like blowing up Libya or trying to impeach the president over false pretenses with a process that does not adhere to the due process of law. And knowing Jimmy and JoAnne as well as I do now, I know that Jimmy doesn't particularly care for Donald Trump completely. However, I also know that whoever it is that's being subjected to this process, Jimmy's respect for due process, the law, and things being handled fairly and in an equitable and justice-oriented fashion would cause him to object to this process. Am I correct, Jimmy?
Absolutely.
100%. It's a farce and it's ridiculous, but you have to go look at the guys that are perpetrating all these crimes in Washington, D.C. They're bought and paid for. There has not been anything done by Washington, D.C. for the people of the United States except what Donald Trump has done recently domestically. But when the politicians in Washington, D.C., their average salary is $175,000 a year, and the average net income to their balance sheet is $1.6 million per year increase. How can you do that without being a crook? So you have to look at all those D.C. bunch, and those 535 are criminals to the core.
Yeah, they re-upped the Patriot Act behind the counter while they were having this farce circus over here.
Wow, I didn't hear anything about that. What can you tell us about that?
I just read that tonight.
Just done.
Wow.
The Democrats did it.
Wow. And what's the re-up version of the Patriot Act introduced?
I don't
know. Same thing. I don't think they changed any bit of it.
But it's taking away all our rights and all our,
And the Facebook is no longer allow anything to be included on Facebook that has anything derogatory about vaccines.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
So, look at the control. Look at how they're getting away with it. How's it happening? But the thing that we found out, not only from Libya, but our good friends in Kuwait and Egypt and all over, the Muslims have absolutely no problem at all in their children intermarrying with Jews. They said they're our brothers. We're the same bloodline. We have absolutely no problem. So if that's what we hear from real Muslims and real Jews, if we hear that ourselves in that part of the world, who are we supposed to believe? The Jews and Muslims hate each other? That's just not the truth. You look at the radicalization of the Muslim religion, shame on them. Yeah, they should have done something to try to eliminate this radicalism. But you've got to look at who's been radicalizing, who went in there and bought off imams, filled their mosques full of money and drugs and everything else, and they're starting. They have this farm team type of arrangement, and that's the CIA and the Mossad. CIA doesn't represent us. Mossad doesn't represent the Jews. Yet they have this organization to bring in these psychopathic tendency young men to become their mercenaries.
It's a proxy army.
Doesn't represent us, doesn't represent you.
But
so let's all wake up.
Yeah.
And let's call a spade a spade. Let's look critically at what's happening. Don't believe what they're saying. Look at what they're doing.
Yeah. This proxy army approach seems to be their preferred tactic that they've used again and again. We're going to be getting into details on all of these topics in just a little bit when we begin our show on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. It's a great way for us to be able to share this kind of information. Many of these videos Jimmy and JoAnne have attempted to get out previously, but I think at this point everybody is aware that there's a high degree of censorship on the internet, and if people are relying on YouTube and Facebook, you see the kind of problems you can get into. We've been having a lot of luck putting out these videos on Patreon, the system that we've put together. It's also a great way to financially support Jimmy and JoAnne as they're bringing us all of this firsthand information that we really will not hear anywhere else. Jimmy and JoAnne were in Libya, and they have firsthand knowledge, firsthand information. This is all material that they recorded themselves, interviews and things that they conducted themselves. People can also go over to LibyanWarTheTruth.com. That is Jimmy and JoAnne's free website. And if anyone is seeing Jimmy and JoAnne for the first time, it's a great way to learn more about them. They've got a DVD called Escape from Al-Qaeda. We've heard several times from credible sources that Jimmy and JoAnne are the only known individuals to have escaped the clutches of Al-Qaeda. This DVD contains videos and photos and a wide array of documents that have been either taken by Jimmy and JoAnne themselves with their own cameras and interviews that they conducted, or otherwise information provided by trusted Libyan tribal elders and people who are involved in the Libyan government and have history there. So there's a lot of good information on this DVD. It's a $15 DVD, but for people who are sponsoring Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, and I don't know why this thing is a lot of weird technical problems tonight, Jimmy and JoAnne. But for people who are sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, the DVD is going to be shipped to you for free. You're going to save $5. It's a great way to keep Jimmy and JoAnne going and reporting, and it's a good way to support independent journalism. We've got just a few more minutes here on YouTube and Periscope and DLive and Facebook and all these other platforms. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
Just join us tonight. We have a lot to say about the New World Order and how it works and how it's failing. And Jimmy has a lot to talk about in the banking area. And we are going to give a short little update on Libya and what's happening there.
And Dennis Kucinich is going to give you proof positive that there was no internal uprising in Libya. It was a planned takeover of that country, planned years and years in advance. In fact, he was redistricted out of office because he outed the New World Order plans specifically about Libya. So that's a very important video. It's about an hour long, but he absolutely details that Libya was not anything but a false flag operation. It was planned years in advance.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Not later.
You know, one of the most interesting things I've observed about this opposition to people who want to share the truth, if you are Dennis Kucinich and you're in Congress, they have a very specific plan for how to neutralize your effectiveness. I mean, they can't just go around killing Congress people and married couples in Texas that are business people and smartasses in New York City that run talk shows. They have to prescribe a very specific plan for each person to diffuse what they're doing, really with the smallest possible footprint. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely correct. And you know, they aggravate us because we don't have the financial capabilities to really fight them toe to toe. So they go in and blow up our computers and zap our internet and kill our power right before we're about to do a show. And you know, so they aggravate us and they hit us where we can't fight back because we don't have the financial resources to do it. But you know, a bigger party may be subjected to multiple lawsuits where it costs you millions of dollars in defense fees for attorneys and stuff like that. Look at the time you're spending defending yourself for illegitimate claims against you. So you know, they pick they're very, very smart folks, and they put together a game plan about how to knock you out, not keep you out of business. Same thing for JoAnne and myself.
They've done a lot worse to us in the past, and they threatened our lives a number of times personally. They came to our house, but we were told also that because we speak to the Libyan tribes, we are considered an asset, but it's an asset they'd like to control. And so they've tried to compromise us a number of times. They just haven't. We've had enough divine intervention that it didn't happen. They
planted drugs in our car. They've taken all our bank accounts away. They've killed our business. You know, they've done everything they could do to us. We're still here because of the help and support of all the good folks, Patreon, a lot of other people that support us.
A lot of really fine people stepped forward to help us, and it really made our life livable so we can survive.
That's excellent to hear. And certainly anyone who's joining us on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, please go over to patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. Check out the information they have posted there, become a sponsor, and help Jimmy and JoAnne keep this information coming. We're going to wrap it up right here for now. We'll be back in just under 15 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar. I look forward to the conversation, Jimmy and JoAnne. Thank you guys so much.
God bless you all.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on Patreon.